away now. I'm making a video. No. Okay, this is basically what happened after the incident. So basically, Pup, you're like dropping everything with your tail. I know you're happy, but okay. Look, you need some calming time. Pup, go away. Anyhow, basically, stop looking at me like that. Go away. I'll take care of you soon. Yeah, soon. I'm not talking to you. Anyhow, this video is basically the next steps of what happened that night. So I think I ended my story with the fact that I'd gotten out. So I had shut the door at this point and I ran out. And then I remember running to my room, back into my room. And I got my cell phone and I just called my boyfriend at the time. I just managed to say the words, Callum raped me. That's all I remember saying, just hysterically. And then him telling me to get out, call a cab. He kept telling me to call a cab, and I didn't want to wait for a cab. I just wanted out of there because I was so scared that he would come in and find me. Because obviously, I mean, he lived 3 minutes away and he knew he'd been to my flat before. So I just wanted to get out of there really, really fast. So I decided to just run for it. And I got out in the streets and I just ran. And my boyfriend, Colin at the time, told me that he would meet me halfway through Perth Road, which was this long stretch of road. And so I must have ran about 2 kilometers. At one point I called my best friend, Mia, I think because I was in such a state of panic or I was disorientated. To be honest, I don't even remember that call that much. So I've had to ask her about it, and basically she's told me that I kept saying, I explained what happened and I kept saying that I'm at this crossroad and I don't know where to go. So obviously I was somewhere along this road and I just didn't know what to do. And this point is, I mean, you've got to realize that it's about 1:30 in the morning, so it's very late. And I mean, the great thing about Mia and me is that whenever we call each other, it doesn't matter what time it is. And especially if it's that late, then we know that something's definitely wrong and the other person picks up. So that's what's so brilliant about our friendship, and I'm so glad she did pick up that night. So she just kept telling me, go to the police. At some point, Colin met me halfway through Perth Road, and I just kind of broke down into his arms and just started crying, and crying, and I kind of fell to the ground. And he picked me up, and I think we got into a taxi. I think he called a taxi. I think so, because I don't think I was able to get myself up. But anyhow, we ended up at his flat. He asked me what happened. I told him. At this point, I had received text messages from Callum saying, I'm so sorry, go to the police. Of course, I didn't reply to those texts. I just left it. I showed them to Colin. And then Colin called the police, who came over, and they picked me up, and then I went to the police station. At the police station, I basically had to tell the story and in much detail as I possibly could. So there was this really lovely woman who was really great at the time and helped me out, and she made me feel very comfortable, because obviously I was, you're talking about something that's really horrific and embarrassing and not too nice. So she was really lovely and helped me out through that experience, and she basically took my statement down. And then the other police officer, he went to, with backup, he went to go see Callum, and they arrested him there. So he was arrested that night, and he was going to spend 7 days in jail, and then he got parole. So until his court case, basically, which would be a year and a bit later. So I told my story, and then we had to wait for a doctor, because obviously I had to go through a medical exam for evidence. And we called a first doctor, and he didn't arrive. He decided halfway through that he wasn't gonna come after all, which was lovely, because at this point I'd been waiting for about, maybe an hour and a half. And then we called a second doctor, but the second doctor, because these doctors have to be quite specialised, they need to know how to collect the evidence, what to do with it, etc. So you can't just have any doctor like that. So this doctor was coming all the way, I think, from Fife. So it was quite a bit of a way to Dundee, and so he arrived maybe another hour. I don't really remember, but at this point I really needed to pee. Like, it was so bad. I really needed to go to the toilet, and I couldn't go because I had to keep basically the medical evidence there. And I just remember thinking, like, oh God, it was just so upsetting, because even like just to go to the bathroom, I couldn't do that. I had to wait and wait and wait. Eventually the doctor came and he performed the medical exam, and this is something I don't remember, but he basically testified in court that he couldn't even conduct the whole medical exam because I was in so much pain that he couldn't actually carry out the whole exam, and that's what he testified. And I remember being in pain, but I don't even remember that because I think there's a lot of parts in the aftermath that are kind of complete blanks to me. So anyway, I got the medical evidence, and then I think I went back to Colin's flat. Yeah, back to Colin's flat, and I kept thinking to myself, how am I going to tell my parents? Like, how... That was my biggest worry, actually. That was really not that I was afraid of how they would react, because I never had to worry about that. I can tell my parents anything, and I have a very good relationship with them. I know that whatever I do, they will always, I always have a place at home, so that's not an issue. But the idea of calling up my parents and letting them know that I had been raped was just... I couldn't physically or mentally bring myself to say the words, and I kept crying about that because I just couldn't do it. And it was to the point where I was actually starting to wonder, am I ever going to be able to tell them that this happened? Because I was worried about, sort of how they would react to it, in terms of, I didn't want to cause any sadness or shock, or, to break that sort of news. I just felt that I didn't want to destroy their worlds in that sense. Like, I didn't want to let them know that their child had just been raped. But I obviously I knew that, one way or another I had to tell them. And I remember telling my boyfriend that I'm just not able to get the words out, like I can't. And at this stage, Colin hadn't even met my parents yet. I mean, we'd been dating for a few weeks, so we weren't even in a serious relationship at this point. And he took the steps which I'm forever grateful for, because, I mean, I don't know how I could have done it otherwise, but he basically decided to call my parents, and this is, again, I think maybe at this point it was about 4 a.m, and he decided to call my parents, and he'd also waited outside the police station for me for hours and hours. So really, that was such amazing support. And he called my parents and he told them what had happened. Obviously they were under shock, but once he just said those words, it was fine for me to continue to speak. It was just those words. I couldn't bring myself to say, Mom, Dad, I've just been raped. Like, I just, it's still quite emotional to me today, because I just couldn't bring myself to say those words. So, sorry. Anyhow, basically, then I was able to tell them sort of what happened, and they flew out the next day to come and meet me in Scotland. So, or maybe, I don't think they could get a flight so fast. I think it was maybe the day after that or something. But yeah, that's sort of the aftermath. And I'm going to end this here because I don't want to make this video too long. So yeah.